Condo listings in Kelowna continue to explode in 2025. Inventory is piling up, so does this mean that prices are finally coming down in the area? Today I'm breaking down these numbers and more, and what it means for you as a buyer or a seller in today's market. So let's dive into the stats for the end of February of 2025. These are the condo stats for the Kelowna area, otherwise known as the Central Okanagan. So for this area, we had 78 sales, condo sales, and that's 22% increase. These numbers are over 2024, so over the year ago. And month over month, we had a 24% increase over January. This is slightly lower. It's about 18% lower than the 10-year average. So sales overall in the whole market have technically been down month over month from January to February if we look at the 10-year average. But year over year, we're still up. Inventory continues to pile up. We're at 627 condo listings. It's a 26% increase over last year. And currently, so this 627 is at the end of February. And currently, we're sitting in the middle of March. And we're at 744 listings as of the recording of this video, mid-March. The benchmark price, which is your typical condo in the area, is $513,000. It's about a 1.7% increase in price over last year. And the pricing side of things I'll get into in a moment here. Now the days to sell, we're sitting at 71 days to sell a condo on average right now. That's a 25% increase over last year. And this number here is what I call the advertised days to sell, the number that's put out by our board and what goes off of the last list price before it sells. Now, the real days to sell is 88. So what I mean by that is this is a little bit extra work, but I go through all the sales that occurred in February and I go through to see which ones were relisted or canceled and relisted or expired and relisted essentially right away. So what happens is a condo might sit on the market for say 60 days at a certain price, then the price gets lowered and then they relist it to 0 days, and let's say it takes another 30 days for that condo to sell. Well, in theory that took 90 days to sell, not 30 days to sell, which would get recorded by our board. Now the list to sale ratio has been sitting around 97% for the last at least year and a half. And that means that buyers and sellers are negotiating on average around 3% off the list price. And months of inventory, that tells us whether we're in a seller's market, a buyer's market, or a balanced market. We've been sitting in a buyer's market for quite some time now. Right now we're at 8 months of inventory. Just for context, between 4 and 6 months is a balanced market. So we're over a balanced market into a buyer's market with 8 months of inventory. And the calculation for that is you take the inventory at the end of the month, divided by the sales that happened in that month, and that gives you the months of inventory. And if you flip those numbers, sales divided by inventory, that gives you the absorption rate, so the percentage of condos that sold in a month. So right now we're sitting at 12% absorption rate, which also tells us we're in a buyer's market. If it increases closer to 20%, then we're in a seller's market. If you have any questions about the Kelowna real estate market or you're looking to buy or sell, you can simply shoot me a text message to the number on the screen or give me a phone call, whatever you prefer. Or there is more information like my email address down in the description below. Now let's continue on to the condo pricing at the end of February 2025. Now, if you are getting any value out of this video so far, I invite you to hit the subscribe button to stay up to date on my future videos. Now let's discuss pricing for condos in the Kelowna area. So if we go back to March 2020, or it should be February, being the end of February 2025. Anyway, the prices weren't that much different then. They actually came down from February back then. But remember, March 2020 was start of the pandemic, so prices were coming down before they skyrocketed up in those 2 years. And speaking of rocketing up, the prices increased by 50% during that 2-year period for condos. And the other townhouse and single family home category looked exactly the same. And we peaked out in March of 2022 at $556,000 for your typical or your benchmark price for a condo here. And since then, down to today, February 2025, where we're sitting at $513,000 for your typical condo. That's down about 8% since then. So a 50% rise and just an 8% decrease. And actually the bottom of the market since the peak was actually last year, just a couple months ago in December, and it bottomed out at 475,500. Now last month, the prices rose from 475 to 514 or 515, I believe it was. And we only had a small dip off into February. I thought it was going to drop back down to about around the $500,000 mark, but I was wrong. And it only came down about $1,000. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in March. Sales are still down in March. I just ran the numbers the other day, and they're lower than average. And I think that's because of everything that's going on in the economy and down south and all that. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next couple weeks for March, because March, April, May are the spring seasons are busiest here in the Okanagan. Now, if we take this red line back to see where we're sitting historically, so we're back between January and February of 2022 pricing, which were pretty close to the peak, but I don't think, and this is completely my opinion, I don't think we'll get to the peak for another couple years. Or surpass it for sure. I think it'll be a couple more years until that happens. But really, who knows? That's just my opinion on that. And so if we take this green line back, it's about 5 years there, we're sitting at, so if you did buy 5 years ago or before that, you're at least a 30% increase in value on your condo in 5 years. Keeping in mind, if you are new to the market, this number is not typical. The actual 20-year average is a 6% year over year on average. So even with the big spikes like this, we're still sitting at 6% annual growth rate. Now, some additional sales information that I pulled was the type of occupancy of the condos that sold in February. So 42% were owner occupied, 14% were tenant occupied, and the rest were essentially vacant, or the listing was marked as other occupancy, which for the most part, those were also vacant as well. They're brand new builds that were ready to move in, and they're obviously going to be vacant, but they mark them as other because they're brand new. And of the active listings right now, close to 50% are in this category where they're marked vacant or other. And the low and high sales for February was a $240,000 condo and a $1.3 million condo. So what do you think? With the increase in inventory, do you think we'll see prices come down this year? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And in the meantime, if you are looking for more market insights for the Kelowna area, check out this video here.